We are so excited to be talking with Great Falls native and pro basketball player Josh Huestis. He's sharing about growing up in Great Falls, where he likes to eat when he comes back home, and what he calls the most insane moment of his life. That's all coming up on this episode of We're No Damn Experts.
Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You wanna get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you wanna go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Newth,
and we're No Damn Experts. I'm pretty dang excited about the guests we have in our studio today.
Me too.
This guy's Great Falls kid, kind, generous fella from what I've heard, and
we'll find out.
Probably the biggest claim to fame he has, even though that doesn't define him as an entire being. He's a professional basketball player.
Right. No big deal.
Not a big deal. No. In studio, we have with us today Josh Huestis.
Yay.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
That was your first test.
The test. You did good. I'm so excited to have you, and I'm going to apologize in advance. I am a huge Class C basketball nerd. That's
really?
A different...
Meaning she knows nothing about you.
I was almost a belt husky.
Oh,
really?
So,
my
I was
God.
close.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this could derail quickly. But I will be the first to admit, the varying levels of basketball are vastly different. So when you're talking Class C basketball all the way up to pro basketball...
further apart than people would think.
Yeah, I fully recognize there's
same.
very little I know about basketball at those other levels.
That's fine.
So if I start to equate life to Class C basketball, you can go.
No, I get it. Yeah.
All right,
I am
Ingham,
also a
that's
huge
enough.
Class C basketball fan.
There you go.
There we go.
You can loop it.
Woo.
You can connect it for us. Perfect.
So let's get started, because I know nothing about you except the small percentage that's produced in
what you said in the
media.
intro.
Well, and other things people have told me.
Yeah.
Tell us about you. You're a Great Falls kid. What's happened? How long have you been here?
Life story. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2 seconds or less.
So I was born in Texas, actually, and I was adopted at birth. So my mom, she grew up on the High Line in Rudyard, and she was living in Helena at the time and adopted me, and so I spent my first few years in like the Helena area.
Okay.
And then I moved to Great Falls I moved to Belt first in first grade. Spent 2 years there, and then started going to school in Great Falls. So I've been a Great Falls student, I guess you would say, since third grade. So third grade and on, I was here in Great Falls.
What school affiliation do you have locally?
So elementary school, I went to Holy Spirit.
Okay.
I went to Holy Spirit, and then for my first 2 years of middle school was Paris Gibson Middle School, which does not exist anymore.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it closed down, and then so 8th grade I got moved to North Middle School, and then CMR for high school. A wrestler. Yeah.
Do you have any vintage Paris Middle School gear still?
I wish.
That's too bad.
Sometimes I get the fight song stuck in my head still. It was that ingrained in us. I get the fight song still stuck in my head.
I really want to ask you to sing it, but I'm not going to do that.
Shannon,
I'm so curious what the fight song was.
It'll disappear in history, but it'll always be here.
Yeah. No, that's the way. It's not going to disappear. It's in your brain. Yeah.
So then graduated from high school, and then what happened? Where'd you go?
Yeah. So played basketball at CMR, and then was lucky enough to get a scholarship to continue playing basketball at Stanford University in California.
That's where the smart kids go.
That's what they say.
That's where my dad went, actually.
Really? Cardinal.
Yes.
Very nice.
Sure was.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I spent 4 years there and graduated there in 2014. And then was drafted to the NBA and then played 8 years professionally.
Holy moly.
Retired now, but yeah. It's
Is it weird to say you're retired?
It,
I mean,
it was super. It's super
folks,
weird.
you may not
30s.
know, but he's fairly young.
Fairly
Early 30s, yeah.
Yeah. It is weird, especially when people will ask. So I'm doing some stuff now, like I'm doing basketball training and stuff, but I took an entire year off doing absolutely nothing, and people would ask what I did, and I didn't know how to respond because if I said I retired, then it was like, did you win the lottery?
Right.
Are you some tech genius? Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Right.
But it's a little bit better now that I actually have a quote unquote job again. But for a while it was weird. It still is kind of weird to say that I'm retired in some way.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of people that make it into professional sports that you probably would never know.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's one living up in Valier, and he used to play for the Green Bay Packers.
Mm-hmm.
But when you meet people, you can kind of identify like, oh, they're a basketball type or a football type, but you don't go, did you play professionally? To everyone you would see like that.
Yeah. Well, it's really funny you say that because it happens all the time. I'll meet people like when we moved back to Montana, all the time I would meet people, neighbors, stuff who weren't originally from Montana, and they would talk to me. We would have a full conversation. They would say like, oh, what do you do? I would just say, oh, I used to play basketball and leave it at that. And then days later would come back and why didn't you tell me you played in the NBA? And it's like, what did you
right. What do you want me to do? Yeah.
What are you going to do with that piece of information?
Like the guy who built our house, he did the tour of our home with us before we closed on it. And then a couple days later comes back to do some finishing stuff. And he's like, why didn't you tell me you played in the NBA? It's like, why would I do that?
That's not what I lead with.
Who goes, hi, I'm Josh. I played in the NBA. Like, nobody would like me if that's how I introduced myself. That's not.
I'm telling you, if I had some type of credential that people would just awe over, I'd be like, I'd lead with it every time.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's just the weirdest. They're like, I don't know what you want from me. I don't make a habit. I don't think anybody makes a habit of saying what they do in the initial introduction.
Well, then,
it would be weird.
What do they expect the follow up to be from that? Then, like once they discover, like, why didn't you tell me? It's like, so what do you want to know now?
One-on-one?
And then the questions do start. Yeah.
Yeah. What do they ask then?
Oh gosh, like what teams I played for? Who was the best
do
player
they ask you like, oh, do you know Dwayne Wade?
Oh yeah, do you know LeBron? Have you guarded LeBron? Did you guard Steph Curry? Like you get all those. Like who was the hardest person to play? Like have you ever met Michael Jordan? Like all those things. Like it's usually all the same questions. And is always the same players: LeBron, Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, or Shaq. Those are the ones every time.
Still Shaq, huh?
Still Shaq.
Interesting.
Still Shaq. Shaq is.
You should just create a handout and be like,
yeah. I've seen online a guy who is actually a little taller than me makes business cards. And if people ask how tall he is, he hands it to them, and it says his height. It says what it says I'm not a basketball player.
Sucked at it.
Tall, like,
right.
Just to get this out of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. My former co-host before Shannon came on our team, really tall woman, and the questions she got asked every time, and it was just fun to kind of be a witness to it. They'd ask her, "How tall are you?
Yep.
Do you play basketball?" She's like, yeah.
Always the question.
Well, my wife is 6'3",
okay.
So we get it all.
Yeah.
When we're together.
Imagine.
More people talk to her about her height when she's with me than they talk to me.
Yeah.
I think it's more awkward to see tall women for people for some reason.
Right. Like harder to wrap their heads around it for some reason.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't have that problem, by the way.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I would think people would go, how short are you?
Well, I will say, so, on TV for 14 years. So people, when they see me in person, they're like, well, the first one, which is just people like, do you hear what's coming out of her mouth? Be like, oh, you're much more attractive in person. And I'm like,
how do you take that?
I'd rather it be that than the other way around, I guess. Like, thanks.
You look nothing like the person
you are. Think about how you look on TV.
Right. And then I'm like, oh dear. Right. But then the second thing is, oh, you're so much shorter in person than I thought. And I'm like, oh yeah, we used to, I sat on a bunch of pads or I stood on like exercise things. Like, so it's always like a constant.
You're sitting.
People don't know what to do when they're faced with like an anomaly.
Right.
Yeah.
Like everything just goes,
like the weird
manners
thing.
just go out the window.
Yeah.
And it's just,
anything
goes. I can ask you whatever you want, whatever I want right now. You're weird.
Like all the social norms of the things that you shouldn't say to another human.
Oh, it just goes
just
out the
go
window.
away. And you're like, I'm just going to just vomit from the mouth all the things I think about.
All the time. It's like, and people are funny. Like they would come up and I hear it all the time when I'm with friends, by myself, and they're like, "Oh, how tall are you?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm about 6'7". Like, "Oh, my cousin's 6'4". Like, okay. What do you want me to do with
tall
this?
person's club? Like, I don't.
Sounds awesome.
Right.
I do trade shows up in Canada, and the people will stop by our booth, and it's a Great Falls, Montana booth. Our job is to tell people how cool Great Falls is and get them to come here. And people will stop by the booth and they'll say things like, "My aunt was born in Helena."
Okay.
Cool.
Awesome. Like, I went to Whitefish once. Okay. Like,
Great.
It's a lot different.
Do you know how weird you are? And when people do that, I'm like, we don't want you in Great Falls anyway. Keep on walking.
Yeah, right.
It's like people are so desperate to let like connect in some way, I think. But
and find a way to let you know more about them.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, here's what you think
I don't
should
have
be
any
cool.
social abilities to actually have a conversation, so I'm just going to scream things at you that shows I noticed you exist.
Right.
Yeah. My uncle was 6'3" and his wife was 5'9". Okay. I don't.
Cool.
That's awkward.
Thanks for that tidbit. Yeah.
You play basketball? Yeah. Oh, my nephew plays basketball. Okay.
Cool. Do you know how many people in the world have at some point in their life played basketball, right? At some level?
Was the NBA always a dream for you? Like, was that the goal, or was it just to play ball?
From day one, that was the dream. I was the kid who was obsessed with the Bulls in the 90s. Growing up, I was obsessed with
good
Jordan
choice.
and Pippen and Rodman. All
Yeah.
those. Who
What
wasn't,
kid?
Wasn't obsessed with the Bulls. I know.
Let me just say this, and I may offend you, but 90s NBA basketball, pinnacle for me.
I would almost agree. Like, there's nothing like watching like Jordan highlights, Malone, Magic Johnson, Larry, like late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s.
The dream
was
teams
like,
too, right?
Yeah, unbelievable.
I could
love
just
that
watch
era,
that era of professional
Boys.
basketball.
Also, we got Space Jam out of that
Space
era.
Jam.
Just
we
saying.
did get that. Yeah. So
Thanks for adding the movie thing in, Shannon.
Well, I'm just saying. It was a classic
good.
basketball thing from the 90s.
yeah, it was
But
always a
day
dream.
one.
Day one, wanted to be an NBA player like Michael Jordan, and it was just like that was the only thing I thought about from the time I was 6 years old. It was like, I'm going to be an NBA player. Like that's what there was hardly ever a plan B. I was lucky because my parents were pretty smart and pushed me to have like a backup, and they're like, listen, like
You can't play forever.
Right.
But
you're 6 years old. We
Just
don't
on the
actually know your skill level yet.
off chance,
Yeah.
just a weird thing happens.
Right.
And you don't make the NBA.
Right.
What else?
Mhm.
And so they pushed me to be good in school and have backup plans, and I, took it seriously.
Well,
And
clearly,
so
you got
was able to.
You went to Stanford, so obviously you'd had, some other skills in your life. Yeah.
Guess who else in this room didn't go to Stanford?
Mhm.
This girl.
Me either. I can.
I was
My
very
dad
good
did.
at
I did
putting a
not
ball
get
in a
that.
hoop.
Yeah. There you go. So what did you study at Stanford then?
Psychology.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
And psych. Yeah. My mom's a psychotherapist.
Okay.
And so I had grown up around it, and basketball was always plan A, and I really had no idea what I would want to do other than that. So I was like, hey, psychology can be used for just about everything.
Absolutely.
It's always good to know how people work.
Absolutely.
So I was like, I might as well just do this, and it can apply and help me in anything.
The level of trash talking I think you could do with a psychology degree. Your game had to have been pretty good on that.
I have never been a huge, other than to my friends.
That's fair. Mm-hmm.
We talked about words we shouldn't say on the podcast today.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to give
We
examples.
can imagine. Yes.
But you can imagine.
Yeah.
But you hear a lot playing
Yeah.
professional basketball that the cameras do not pick up.
Yeah, I bet.
I will say.
If you're really good at mouth or like lip reading, you might be able to figure it out.
There's been a number of times where I'm like, I think he just said this. And my husband's like,
if you take
I'm
your
pretty
kids
sure
to
you
a
did.
game, do not sit close
to the court. That's probably good advice.
They're adults. It's all adult
Exactly.
entertainment.
That would be, but okay. in all seriousness, though, psychology now combined with your past skills, you're doing stuff where you're training, you're working with kids a lot. I mean, that's got to be helpful.
It is. Yeah, it is. I'm doing basketball training for kids. I mean, basically middle school up, some elementary here and there, but it does come in handy a lot. And I used sports psychology a lot when I was playing. I worked with sports psychologists. I worked with therapists, things like that. And so I learned a bunch, and I'm trying to pass on the things that I learned because I think sports psychologists are great. Yeah. But there's not a ton of them. And especially for kids in Montana, there's not just this easy access to somebody to talk to. And then my whole thing is I'm trying to be for other kids what I wish I had growing up, because there wasn't anybody that had done what I wanted to do that I could talk to. So now I'm trying to pass on the things that I learned, because I had to take my lumps and had some really hard times. And so I'm hoping that, teaching these things can help people not have to go through the same things that I did and have to learn things the hard way. Yeah. Like I did.
Yeah. That's really great that you're trying to, like, you see that as an area of need and you want to give that back, because it's tough out there. It's a tough world.
Just the physical ability is one thing, training and becoming the physical skill of the sport, but then the mental side of it is just.
Well, yeah, it's, there's just about 450 players in the NBA across 30 teams, and every single year, 60 new ones are drafted and more come in from overseas. And so every single year you're fighting to keep your job. Yeah. And there's millions of NBA level athletes in the world. So it's like that extra, what's the thing that's going to keep you there? What's the thing that sets you apart? Because being a great athlete isn't enough, because there's tons of them. Right. Yeah. So it's like this extra thing you need to keep you there. Yeah. Which is the mental game.
Yeah. So, we'll get into the camps you run, but did you do a lot of camps growing up then? Get a lot of one-on-one coaching?
Yeah,
or was it just natural ability and you're like,
I did a ton
I'll just fly through the air here.
I did a ton of work, a ton of camps. I was really blessed that my parents were invested in me and then had the means to put me on teams, send me to camps. My mom was the mom who I wanted my shot to be better. Yeah. She would drag me to the peak. She would bring a camera. She would film me shooting, and she would send it across the country to some shooting coach that she found that lived in Florida. She found online. She would spend hours talking to him on the phone, send him video. He would give her things that I should work on. She would come, that was my parents. Yeah. My dad, same thing, would drag me to the Paris Gibson track. We would do agility and all sorts of different athletic stuff, because they knew that was my dream. Yeah. And kids are fickle. And there were days where I was like, I don't want to do this. But they knew that I actually really wanted it. Yeah. And so they were the ones that dragged me to these things. And I'm thankful for it, right? It obviously wasn't always easy. But they sent me to everything. Anything that I wanted, they made happen. And trying to recognize now that not everybody has it like that. So trying to bring more basketball opportunities to kids in Montana, especially ones that are low cost or free or something like that, easily accessible, because it's hard. Things are way more expensive now than they literally ever have been in history. Yeah. So trying to make it easier for kids by bringing camps like the ones I do to the state. Yeah.
Are you then planning for one this next summer in Great Falls again? Is that scheduled yet?
Yes, it is scheduled. Yeah, that's going to be the week of June 17th. We're going to have our camp here in Great Falls. Then we have our camp in Bozeman in early July. Nice. Those are our yearly ones, and looking to expand that. I mean, obviously the state is enormous. Right. So, Great Falls, Bozeman, hoping to be able to add Missoula in the future soon too, just to be able to get to as many locations and kids as possible. But that's going to be a thing I'm going to do as long as I possibly can, because it keeps growing. People are excited about it. It's a lot of fun. I look forward to it every year.
Yeah. It's been, this sounds like I'm like a weird stalker, but
we've been in your shoes.
Right. People will understand, hopefully. But so last year, maybe, anyway, doesn't matter. In the past, I've come to get some photos at your camp, and so I've just been kind of the lurker in the background,
taking photos of young children.
But it's
was
cool
that you?
to see.
I called somebody about you.
That
short chick
girl over here
taking
creeping
photos
by
of
the
the
Somebody tried to
kids.
put you in one of the drills with the other kids.
Right? That would be hilarious. Actually, I would think that would be funny. Actually, but getting to see, like, I mean, there's a lot of kids there. You got a lot of volunteers and people helping you out and all of that. But it's a really cool camp. I mean, the kids are so excited and they get a chance to really play and get this like hands-on. I mean, I can only imagine being a kid and being like, oh my gosh, I get to go hang out with Josh Huestis. Like, how cool for Great Falls kids. Yeah.
It's awesome. It's like I said, trying to be for kids what I wish I had. Like trying to be that, like, hey, I'm a Great Falls kid. I did it. It's doable. Like you can make it happen. Like whatever the dream is, if it's NFL, MLB, NBA, being a doctor, whatever. Yeah. Right? Like it's doable. Because I do think that Montana locals have a hard time seeing themselves beyond Montana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of like the small town mentality, like, hey, my parents lived here their whole lives and we're just, we're blue collar and I'm just going to be the same. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like, there's so much more and there's so much more that kids can do, and trying to show them that it is possible is exciting. And the kids love it. They have fun. And to me, the camps are all about having the kids love the game first. I think that that's the most important thing, because as much as we'd all like every kid to go to the NBA or play college, like less than 1% play in college and less than 1,000% play in the NBA. Yeah. So they should enjoy their time playing the game, and it shouldn't be no fun. It shouldn't be just work. It should be enjoyable, and they should have good memories and just have fun with their friends. I think is the most important.
On the flip side of that, do you ever look at a kid and go, maybe basketball's not your sport?
Yes,
I mean, because those are tough conversations to have.
It is. It's super tough, and I see it just in training, anything. And again, it just comes back to me going, you know what? They love it.
Yep.
We're just going to have fun.
Yeah.
We're just going to enjoy it. And one of the hard things that I'm really trying to work on, and I think anybody that has gotten really skilled at something, is trying to pass on knowledge and being like, hey, just do this. And it's really hard for somebody, like, why is that so hard for them to do? And then I go, oh, right. That's easy for me, but it's not necessarily going to be the same for everybody.
Yeah. Right. So you're learning things at these too. Then.
My gosh, yes. Being patient, and even with the young kids, you'd be shocked at how often it is that you see a kid who you're like, this kid cannot play to save their life. In like 3rd or 4th grade. And then by the time they're like freshmen in high school, everything changes. Yeah. Right? Like when I was growing up, I had plenty of friends that were much better than me. And just things change. Kids grow up, you get more athletic. I could barely like walk and chew gum at the same time. And then just you grow up and things change. So having them fall in love with it and keep at it, and then maybe one day they find themselves. And if they don't, that's fine. They at least had fun doing it while they could.
Right.
My coach brought me to the sideline one time and said, Clark, what'd we say about chewing gum and running? Spit it out. And I'm like, I don't have any gum in, coach. And he's like, then you're sitting down until you can regroup. I'm like, can't be that bad. Like, I'm thinking, how bad does it look? Because it feels right.
Yep. I've seen videos of myself running down the court as a kid, and then just every step, like, oh, this might be the one he's going over.
So you're saying there's hope for kids.
Hope.
Yeah.
There is hope. Yes. But it's a process for sure.
There's so many. I mean, I am not a parent, but I observe friends who are parents, or just hear from people the amount of pressure on both kids and parents at what seems to be a younger and younger and younger age. Like, it's almost like you have to have it figured out at 3rd grade if you know what you're going to do with your life, and or you're like, so you have to do every single thing in the world at 3rd grade, and it just is crazy. So it's good that I think it's good you're instilling this like love of the game first, because like, don't really pressure a kid at 3rd grade to have their life figured out.
No, not at all. And burnout is a real thing with these kids. And they're, like you said, they're starting earlier and earlier and more and more and more. Like, it's too much. And I'm trying to, my son's 2.5, but as he gets older, trying to navigate that of, I want him to be really good at basketball. Right. I would love for him to be really good at basketball, but I can't force it on him. It needs to be his decision. And even then, I need to tell him when it's time to take a break
Yeah.
and to do other things. I want him to be a well-rounded kid. I want him to play other sports. I want him to take time off because I've seen it. It happened to me. I've seen it with other players where it's all they do.
Yeah.
And then years down the road, it just becomes just too much.
Yeah.
And they lose that love that they once had because it's all they've had and the pressure was too much. So trying to find the balance is important because like you said, but if they want to be successful,
they got to
it takes
get on
a ton
it.
of
Yeah.
work. Yeah, right. So trying to find the balance, it's a weird thing that keeps changing and getting harder to do because players are just getting better.
Yeah.
Kids are getting more athletic. They're getting faster and stronger and better at the sport because they start earlier and earlier.
Yeah.
So one of the things we always hear about really good athletes is the multiple sports they engage in. Are you a multi-sports kid?
Yeah. So I did track and field. I did football when I was really little. I did hockey and soccer like every kid does.
Yep.
But my big ones were football, track and field, and basketball. And then when I did that through my sophomore year of high school. And at that point, I realized that for me, I was like, I know I only want to play basketball. And I played tight end in football. So I kept having to put my hand in the snow and I was just kind of over it.
Yeah.
Like, this is not what am I doing here?
If I really want to play basketball,
I'm more an
an
indoor sports kid.
Exactly. Weather is always the same on the basketball court. So I was like, I know what I want to do. I know I'm not going to be a football player. So I stopped playing football. I did some track and field just for the social aspect. It wasn't like I was the kid who I started doing high jump and they made us do conditioning on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I quit doing high jump and switched to discus because discus throwers didn't have to do conditioning.
Yeah, there you go.
This is not what I'm here for. I'm here to lay on the high jump mat and talk to my friends.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to really commit to this sport.
Exactly. So,
which is so funny hearing from a professional athlete, right? Like, I don't want to do the conditioning. I'm just not going to do it. Yeah.
See, that was me. I was like, what am I doing running on a track right now?
Yeah.
Because I was still doing the basketball
staying in shape. Yeah.
stuff. I was still working on basketball conditioning there. I was like, track's not for the exercise for me right now. I'm here to relax and hang out with friends.
Yeah.
So
totally.
I switched competitions completely. To
Where I grew up, we only played basketball. It was the only sport that even mattered in our school. But
where was that?
Whitewater High School.
Oh,
north of Malta, Mighty Penguins.
Whitewater, Seiko.
Yeah,
I know some people up there.
Yeah, they're all co-opted now. But back in the day, we were a standalone school. Pretty dang good, if I do say myself.
They're very good at basketball now.
Yeah,
the girls are.
Yeah,
the girls have.
Yeah, we've
some great
got
players.
A heritage there, but our PE teacher made sure we knew how to play other sports, and then every year at Christmas we'd play volleyball, and it was this grade versus teacher volleyball tournament on the Christmas Day party. So this is the only time we ever played volleyball. So for me, volleyball wasn't a real sport. It was just something you did for fun.
Yeah.
Right.
So I go to college and my roommate's like, well, we're going to play club volleyball. Do you want to play? I'm like, sure, I'll come. And I loved playing volleyball at Christmas. I should let you know, I don't think it's a real sport. So if you get like super competitive and you expect me to play at a higher level, I'm probably not the person for you. She's like, oh, just come. So I went and I played my one club volleyball game, and halfway through the game, she's like, yeah, you don't belong on this team. I'm like, I knew I probably wasn't a good fit. Like, you want to play basketball, I'm fine with that because I can get competitive there, but volleyball I can't because it's not it's fun for me. Not a real sport.
I get it.
I did all the sports that shorter people could do. Well, not all the sports. I always loved I always wanted to play basketball, and I think I convinced myself, I'm like, well, I just shouldn't do that. But I've always loved basketball. I ran cross country and played golf. Was a cheerleader. Yeah. My same thing in college. So I ran cross country in college. But they required us to also do track. And so like I'm a distance person through and through. So we had to, so spring of senior year, I did not do track anymore because I was like, I'm done with this. Don't have to keep doing it. But that was the thing, like had to do like the 10,000 meter in track where you're just flat running 1,000 laps. And I was like, this is dumb, but it's like we had to stay in shape for,
Right.
for the cross country season. Yeah.
No, that's not for me either.
But I liked it because I got to be like, that was especially in college, like your family, you know, your team.
the
So
social
it's
aspect,
right. So I was like, well, so come out here and run this stupid 35 laps on the track.
So did you do the silly kid stuff in high school, or were you just 100% committed to?
Oh man, I was not fun. I was not.
So you were too committed.
Bonfires
Yes,
and
absolutely.
cruising around. I don't know what they do in Great Falls, but
I wasn't at parties. I wasn't at any of that. Any given Saturday night, you would just find me and a couple of my buddies in one of our friends' basements playing ping pong.
Nice.
Yeah.
Got that coordination.
Just regular ping pong.
Yeah.
Using a ping pong table.
No, like actually
as
playing
it was
ping pong.
intended.
No other types of pong going on.
Exactly. Or video games.
Yeah.
That was our thing.
Yeah.
Like
I love that.
wasn't going to roll the dice
Jeopardize
jeopardize anything. So I was super committed to that. And obviously it was hard because everybody else was doing all sorts of fun things. And maybe I missed out on certain, I don't know, milestones or experiences.
Were they in the NBA with you?
No,
Right.
You might
Exactly.
be onto something.
Yep.
Maybe.
So
Now it pays off.
definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. But it was hard at
Yeah.
the same time. Yeah. But luckily I had buddies with me that were kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
So we
Good.
I had
That
somewhere
helps
to
too.
be.
Yes, that helps too.
That is helpful.
Absolutely. Okay. And then went on to Stanford. What was so I remember being at a draft party for you at the, what is now the stadium.
Yeah, the old Sting.
Yeah. The old Sting. There was a party Caitlin used to be Homeland. A friend of mine. So I hung out with her at that.
You're friends with Kate? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Her brother Brandon and I are really good friends.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew like you had good like family connections with that. But so I was friends with her and went with her and stuff and hung out at that draft party watching you. And that's, talk to us about that experience of just waiting to see what your life would look like.
Before you start, I need clarification.
Yeah.
Was he at the party at the Sting, or was he somewhere?
I was there.
You were there.
I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was the day of
was very
the
crowded.
NBA draft. It was.
Yes.
It was the day of the NBA draft.
Yeah.
And, some players, they go to New York where the draft is held and they actually go to the draft. And that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to be home. So that morning, like I went fishing, like I was extremely nervous.
I can only imagine.
Well, you got
So
just preoccupied with the fact that I hope I get picked.
the culmination of my entire life, the 18 years leading up to that was that day.
Yeah.
And so I was like super nervous and went fishing, came back, and it was originally supposed to be me and family and a couple close friends at the Sting, and then somehow
Shannon crashed.
Somehow it got posted.
I was not the first one to crash that.
It was put in the Tribune.
Oh.
That's where I would be for a draft party, and the public was welcome.
Oh.
So it was like shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, it was
in that there was standing room only, like no space whatsoever. It was
so the nerves got to elevate just a little bit.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Through the roof.
I feel like, wait, what's happening here?
I'm going to be the guy who everybody's here to watch get drafted, and I'm not going to get drafted.
Yeah.
And then I get to walk around and be like, "Thanks for your support."
Right. Thanks, everybody.
But then, so I'm sitting there, and the draft started at like whatever. It was probably like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and each team gets a few minutes for their pick, and they usually use like all their time, and so it like hours.
Yeah.
Going by, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like not talking to anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm like shaking.
Yeah.
And then just waiting. And then I get a call from my agent, and he's like, "Hey, are you ready to be part of the Oklahoma City Thunder? They're going to pick you with their next pick."
I just got chills, and this has nothing to do with me.
No.
But I can't imagine hearing that.
And so I heard that, and I was like, and that was when it was just like, whoa. And so I hung up the phone, and I look up, and then they come on. And I still have a video somewhere, which I can show you after this, of when the moment happens where they say my name, and all you hear is because everybody's watching me on the phone.
Right.
And they see my demeanor change. So everybody's like, it's happening.
Yeah.
And so everybody's looking at the big projector screen, and it's like, with the 29th pick in the draft, the Oklahoma City Thunder is like, It was just And then the place erupted. And like, it was the single most insane experience of my life still. Like nothing like it, where it's just
I can't even imagine.
Everything was like worth it. That had like all the work, all the things I missed, all that. And just like my dream has come true, you know?
Wow.
So
Yeah,
I've
cool.
got some non-serious questions about this
I
whole
love
draft
non-serious
thing.
questions. Those are the best questions.
So you see on the TV, like they'll put the baseball cap on of the team. Like, do you have just a table
Like
full
all
of
of
everyone's
the
caps?
So that's if
Or-
you go to New York, if you're part of the if you go to the draft in New York, they have all these caps so that when you go up on the stage, they hand you the cap of the team that picked you, and you put it on. I did not, but I will say, so that happened. And then within the next 30 minutes after that, everybody had like sprinted to Shields after I got picked, and people were just flooding back into the Sting at the time with Oklahoma City Thunder hats and jerseys and stuff, and asking me to like right there and sign it, because they like immediately left to go get memorabilia. Yeah.
Wow.
Now, folks, you may not understand Great Falls, but we don't have a lot of professional teams in our market.
Believe it or
Correct. Yeah.
not, for some weird reason.
Right.
You know, they'll heavy up on like Viking stuff or
Packers,
Packers,
sometimes
Seahawks.
Seahawks,
Broncos.
Yeah.
because they're geographically close to us.
Yeah. Ish.
I'm shocked Shields had Oklahoma
Yeah.
City Thunder.
So I think the only reason they did is because the Thunder used to be the Supersonics.
in Seattle.
And so there's a connection that they used to be the
That's
Supersonics. And so it's the same
Forgot about
organization.
Okay.
And Seattle,
people's
another one that's
allegiance
distribution
kind of
channels
stays
are
with
still
it.
there.
Yeah.
As far as NBA around here, it's kind of a free-for-all that people pick for their teams. Like, it was the Sonics, maybe
especially
the
now that the
Nuggets,
Sonics
but now
are
it's just
gone.
kind of
Yeah.
whoever you like.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of Lakers, Warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot more player specific versus
For
team
sure.
specific.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
true.
People are more picky about their NFL teams
Yeah.
geographically here.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Now, my next question. What happens if you don't want to play for them?
Well, see, now
You don't have a choice, or
if you are picked in the first round, like I was, you don't really have a choice. They officially have, like, well, if you get picked no matter what, they officially have your rights.
okay.
So if you want to play, you will be playing for them unless you somehow convince them you don't want to, and they will trade your rights away or they'll release you or whatever it is. It happens a lot, actually, to where players will talk to teams and a team says, we want to draft you at this pick. The player says, I don't want to play for you. And then they will get picked by a different team.
Audacity.
So, I mean, it happens a lot in the NFL, the
Mhm.
NBA. Players, especially players that are going to get picked in the second round, will purposely say they do not want to get drafted, which I learned. It's great hearing your name, but if you're going to get picked in the second round, honestly, it's almost better to not get picked overall, because then you get to choose which team you want to go play. You can field offers from
Do you
teams.
get better negotiation in, because all professional players make such big money, huge money.
Uh-huh.
Do you get the opportunity to negotiate better? Like, I want these kind of things, or is that really just not an option? We're going to, you want to play, you're going to play for us, and this is the deal.
It used to be like that. If you remember Chris Webber played at Michigan, he's famous for, before there were like rules sit in on money, he, as a rookie, before he had ever played a game, negotiated like an $80 million contract
Good grief.
in the NBA, which was unheard of.
Yeah.
Now, the way it works is that in the first round, you are guaranteed money, but there is a set number you're going to get based on the number pick you were. Like, it's predetermined.
Okay.
If you're 1 through 14, here's how much you get.
Gotcha.
If you're 14 through 20, whatever,
This is
here's
what-
how much you're going to get. Second round, there's no guaranteed money. But you don't really have a ton of negotiating power, because if you did, you would have been picked in the first round.
Okay.
Yeah. Gets a
That
little
makes a
tricky
little more
with that.
sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, players will choose not to get drafted, because then they can hear from 5 different teams who say, hey, come play with us. And then they can go, that one fits me better.
Mhm.
I'm going to go there. But if you get picked, you're stuck. You have to go with the one that picked you.
Do maybe you don't want to say this out loud, but did you have initial like thoughts on going to the Thunder?
I was ecstatic.
Okay.
I just wanted to be picked,
Right,
honestly.
totally.
Yeah, I just wanted to be picked. You know, at the time it was like Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant were there. Like it was a championship contending team. And honestly, going to Oklahoma City was probably one of the best locations for me because as far as markets go, it's one of the smallest markets. And in Oklahoma, like for a kid from Montana, going to Oklahoma was kind of a nice transition.
Yeah.
Like it was still like slow paced. Like I still got to fish a ton, be outdoors. It reminded me of home in a little bit, and it was easier for me to adjust. But it's funny because and I got told this after, if they hadn't picked me, the next pick was the Spurs. And I think if I hadn't been picked by the Thunder, I think the Spurs were going to pick me. If they didn't pick me, the next pick was the Knicks, and the Knicks were going to pick me. And I don't know how well I would have done in New York.
Yeah.
As far as I'm just talking about an easy adjustment for a Montana kid, New York is not that.
LA,
it's a
New
little
York,
bit
probably
different
not
world there.
Yeah.
But Phil Jackson was there.
Yeah.
And he's a Montana guy.
He is.
And so there was a connection there.
Yeah.
But
San Antonio would have been not
would've
as
been,
intense
I
as
grew
New
up
York.
a huge San Antonio Spurs fan too.
Yeah.
My mom is in love with Tim Duncan. So she would have
Nice.
loved that.
Yeah.
But it worked out just how it was supposed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's always nice when that happens.
Yeah.
For sure.
You'd hate to achieve that level and then just have miserable experience after miserable experience and go, I'm done.
Yeah, I will say it is not as glamorous as you expect it to be in some ways, but obviously it's still an incredible job. But there are some not so great aspects that come along with it.
Were there things about being an NBA player that surprised you or that were like requirements of what it meant for you to be on the team outside of the court that you were surprised by?
A lot of, especially in Oklahoma City, a lot of community work was huge, which I get. It's important in Oklahoma City. The city actually owns the team.
Okay.
So what they did is they did a tax increase to bring the team there. So technically the team is owned by the citizens.
Okay.
So as part of that, what came with that is we're going to do
a
lot of community work.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we were always out in the community, which is great. That was great. And I think the one thing that gets difficult that I don't think people see is that you have to be on all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
The minute you leave your house, you have to be on because when you are at the mall or the movies or a restaurant, like everybody's watching, people are going to want to talk to you. Like you have to be the persona. And it's hard. You know, I think that I was lucky because I was not one of the famous ones on the team. I had much more famous teammates. But like looking at guys that were the A-list celebrities on my team, like couldn't take their kids to the mall. Or like if they went, they were surrounded by 100, 150 people just following them everywhere, which is, you know, not ideal. Especially
you're just trying to go about your day.
I'm trying to get groceries.
Yeah.
And then who's the jerk if you turn down signing an autograph or taking a picture?
Right. How fast does
one,
that become?
You have to do
100. And then all of a sudden you're at the mall for hours and you've got nothing done.
I mean, I get it. You know, being here in Great Falls is a pretty big deal. You know, it's tough to just sometimes go
you can empathize.
Have a beer somewhere and people will be like, oh, how's tourism? You'll be like, I'm just trying to have a beer with my husband. I mean, so I get it, Josh.
You get it. I'm glad that I have someone here that understands what I've been through.
So what was this is mostly out of curiosity, schedule look like for when you were in the NBA? Like, did you have weeks off? Were you in the gym like 8 hours a day? How did that work?
Like on season, like during the season? During the season,
or both.
Was always crazy.
Yeah.
It would be, you know, we played, because it's an 82 game regular season.
Which is a lot.
It's a ton.
Yeah, we're playing, of games.
We're playing 3 or 4 games, sometimes even 5 games in every 7 days. And so in different cities all over the country.
That in and of itself had to be such a huge adjustment just athletically for your, like, how to figure out how to train and maintain, because that's different than what you're dealing with in college.
For sure it is, because I mean, you're flying everywhere, and then what would happen is a lot of times we'd fly into a city, immediately it would be go to your rooms, drop your bags, we're going to meet in the weight room and we need to do stretching and some weightlifting. Yeah. Because that's important to maintain being healthy, to keep your body peak performance. You would do that, you'd finish. we would probably have practice that night, go practice next, and then go to bed, wake up the next morning. We would have a shoot around, do shoot around, back to the hotel, take a nap, get up, go to the arena 4 hours early.
Yeah.
Do your warm up, play the game. Game would end immediately to the airport on a flight to either a new city or back home, get home at 2, 3 a.m. And then we might have a game the next day, or we would have practice the next day. A lot of that. And then for someone like me who was trying to develop more of a role and try to be a starter, try to be a contributor, there was no like rest time. It was play, and then the next day I was back in the gym the next morning trying to keep getting better so that I could get more time, get more opportunities. And then off season wise, it was, season would end, I would take 2 weeks, about 2 weeks off.
Okay.
And then it was back in Oklahoma City and training 2 or 3 times a day until the season started again.
Yeah.
At what point in the journey did your wife join you?
Yeah.
My first year out, my rookie year.
Okay.
I met my wife my rookie year, and I told her when we met that I was a basketball player, because she asked, she's like, "Why are you?" Because we met in Austin, Texas. And she's like, "Why are you here?" I was like, "I'm a basketball player," and she was like, "Oh, he's in college, or he plays in who knows,
like
YMCA
his rec league." He's like, yeah.
What kind of line is this?
But I met her very early in my career, which was a blessing, honestly, because I met somebody who didn't know anything about who I was, because that's one of the things that, we learn going into the NBA. We have literal conferences about it, is like understanding what people want from you, how people might use you.
Being aware of that.
Exactly. Being aware of that, and meeting somebody that had no clue who I was and honestly did not care that much. Like, that was great.
That's
because
your
then
job.
I didn't have to navigate that later. I was like, I've got my person. I'm good. I don't need anybody else.
Yeah.
But that's got to be pretty understanding as a spouse to be able to go, oh, it's not a glamorous life at all.
Right.
It's hard on her for sure.
Because you're gone.
And we didn't have a kid at the time. So like with a child, we had our son during the last year of my career, he was born just after COVID. So there was really no basketball going on during that anyways. But I played one more season when I had my son. It was really hard on her.
Yeah.
Because I was gone. There were times for 5 to 7 days straight.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, I was gone most of the day at practice anyways.
Because what you really want to do when you get home is listen to your wife go, "You've been gone for 2 weeks. I've been stuck here. And now you want to go to the gym and play basketball with your friends."
That's the thing is...
You're like, "Woman, I'm a professional basketball player."
How many times do I have to tell you?
Before we had my son, she was great. She would like come rebound for me, all that, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously that got harder when we had our son, but I would come home from the road trip and she would pick my son up and go, here.
Yeah. I bet.
Meet your child. This is
can
what
only
he's done
imagine.
since you've been gone.
Yeah. And did I see you're expecting another kid?
Yeah, I've got a little girl on the way very soon, in the next 5-6 weeks.
Oh
So we're closing in.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. It's exciting.
Yeah. And what's your wife's name?
Haley.
Haley. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Haley.
Shout
Well
out
done,
to
Haley.
She's a champ.
Good job.
She holds it together for us all.
So Great Falls isn't home to you anymore, correct? But you're in Montana?
Yeah. So
or
Great
you
Falls.
just showed up here to visit your folks. And...
So my parents still live in Ulm.
Okay.
So they still have the house that I kind of grew up in and everything
That's
out
cool.
in Ulm. So we came down here to do like a second Christmas for the kids. But I live in Bozeman now, but I'm here all the time. I mean, now that it's just 2.5 hour drive, and that very easy drive.
Yeah. Totally.
It's really simple.
Yeah, it's very nice. So we're down here all the time because my mom would not have it any other way.
Right.
Well, especially with
grandbabies.
2 grandkids.
Yeah, we chose that distance because we were like, we can see her a lot, but she can't just show up.
Right.
Yeah.
Enough, but not too much.
Exactly.
That's the beautiful thing
Love
about
you, Mom.
family.
Yeah. Right.
Everybody loves their parents as long as you get some time away.
We all
from
love
them.
them. Exactly. But like
every
You
day
have
is
your
a bit much.
own life. Yeah.
We've been here for a few days. I'm like, all right.
Time to
wrap
hit the
this
road.
up.
Yeah.
When do we leave?
Right.
Yeah. It's been great.
At
I'm
least
pretty
let's
sure
go.
we got to
Yeah.
check to see if
Yeah.
the water heater's still working at our
It
house.
was really weird because last year we came and spent about 6 weeks in Great Falls
Oh,
straight.
wow.
And
Ooh.
we rented like a house.
Okay.
It was the first time I've ever been in Great Falls and not stayed at my parents' house.
Yeah.
It
That'd
was
have
this
been
really
weird.
different dynamic. It was weird, but it was awesome
Yeah.
at the same time.
You're like, that was a good choice. Yeah.
Could not do 6 weeks
Yeah.
in my parents' house. I don't think anybody could do 6 weeks
Right.
in their
That's
parents'
just,
house.
yeah.
Well, I think there's just such a interesting shift of dynamic because you
Yeah.
become the kid again, but
Mhm.
you're a grown
Yeah.
man.
kid /
with
caregiver.
chill-
Yeah.
Like
Well-
there's just that weird. Do I have to
Mhm.
tell them when I'm gonna be home? Do I have a
Right.
curfew?
No.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
No. I'm not.
Not doing that.
No. I answer only to my wife
There you go.
Yeah, that's probably
She's
a
got
good
the power.
plan.
Yeah.
if she's listening.
We already
I'm
gave
sure
her a
she'll
shout out,
listen.
so yeah.
She'll listen. She'll be like, "My husband is amazing."
She almost listens to nothing I do. I talk enough.
That's
as
why
it
it's-
is. She's
yeah.
like, I don't want to hear you
That's
talk
how you keep
more.
the happy
I'm
marriage.
done.
Yeah.
That's what I say. The key to a happy marriage is zero communication.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's
real
what most
helpful.
marriage therapists would,
Yep.
would pass
Yeah.
on as their advice.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
less.
sure you
Psych
talked.
major over here.
You
is like,
learned
yep.
about that in every psychology book. Was like
No
communication's really
Communication's
overrated.
usually the issue. Yeah.
So between Oklahoma City and Bozeman
hmm
was a lot of life. What did that include?
Yeah, it was. Oklahoma City, I was there for 4 years.
Mhm.
And then we spent a year in San Antonio / Austin.
Okay.
And was playing for the Spurs organization down
Mhm.
there, did a year there, and then went to Germany. And we spent
Oh wow!
we spent time in Munich, Germany playing. I was playing over there in the Euro League, and then COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved back, and so we had always our home base during my off seasons was Las Vegas.
Okay.
After we left OKC, because I was doing my training in Las Vegas. It's one of
Yeah.
the hotbeds. There's like LA, New York, Miami, and
Yeah.
Vegas are the
Okay.
big training grounds for NBA players.
Okay.
And so I was in Vegas, and we hunkered down during COVID
Yeah.
in Vegas, and then we bought a home just before we went to Germany, but then
Yeah.
COVID happened, so
Yeah.
we couldn't move in right away because people were living in it, and we
Oh,
were like, we probably
okay.
shouldn't just.
Kick them out in the pandemic. Yeah.
So we eventually moved in there, and then spent the time there, and then there was like a little bubble, is what they called it, for the G League, which is like the semi-pro league for the NBA,
Okay.
where they had all the players go to Disney World and spend the whole shortened like 6-week season only in Disney World. Nobody could come see you. You could never leave because they didn't want the infection. Like they
Right.
didn't want people getting
Yeah.
COVID shutting down the season, but they wanted to have a season.
Yeah.
Did that.
It's just funny that it's like
Not
you're
great.
stuck at Disney World
It
alone.
was-
Like,
but no rides. So that's
Yeah.
the thing. We were in the part of the park there was no rides.
Yeah.
There was no. It was just a big hotel.
Yeah.
So we would play the games, and
Interesting.
then and it was weird because when you first get there, so I had to go to Texas first because I was playing for a team from Texas. We had like a little mini training camp there, but it was just at like this hotel, and I had to spend 5 days in the hotel quarantine when I got there. Couldn't see anyone, nothing.
Oh my gosh.
Then we did like some conditioning stuff, then went to Disney World, and I had to spend another 5 days in quarantine in my hotel room there. So like literally
Ugh.
food brought to our door.
Yeah.
Like did not leave that room for 5 days.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you wouldn't
Which-
even be able to see the other human that was delivering your
No,
food.
no,
Right.
they would
You'd
knock.
knock
We had
and
to
then
wait.
They would put
Like-
it there, and then we would pick it up, eat it, and when we were done, put it back outside our door, and people would
So
get
you
it
spent
later.
a lot of days alone in a hotel that year.
It was
Yeah.
weird. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was super weird. My wife was pregnant at the time, so I
Yeah.
was just like, "This is like."
I would have
this is
lost my
hard.
ever loving
Yeah,
mind.
and so a lot of video games, and then it was
Mhm.
like play games, go back to the hotel,
Yeah.
Mm.
go back to the hotel room, and like to get meals. Once we eventually were let out of our rooms to get the meals, and I clocked it because it was a huge campus. I did it on my watch, and it was a 0.45 mile walk to get food.
Okay.
So to get food and come back was a mile
mile.
long walk just to go get breakfast.
Yeah.
I'm hungry. Okay.
Okay.
here
Gotta
we
plan
go.
this
A mile.
out. Like,
I gotta walk a mile to
right.
go
To get breakfast. Yeah.
which was not great.
Right. No. Not when you're hungry.
Oh,
So I
man.
did that, and then that ended, and then spent the summer in Vegas again training,
Mhm.
and then spent my final season playing in Cleveland Was playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers organization up there, played a year there with my son and my wife and 2 dogs in an apartment building. It's just,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Good thing you like each other. Yeah.
Well, yeah. We had our moments.
I'm
and
sure.
then
I can.
that season
yeah.
ended. And when that season ended, I was like, all right, I'm going to take some time and I'm not going to touch a basketball. And because I was contemplating retiring, I was tired. My body hurt. It was just and I wanted to be more around my son more.
Yeah.
I was like, if I don't miss it, then I'll know. Then I'll have my answer.
Yeah.
If it's the right choice. And I took about 3 months and never missed it. So I was like, okay. And retired in 2022, July of 2022. And then I just took a whole year just with my son, which was awesome.
That's really cool.
Did that and then came back to Montana. We spent that year figuring out what was next, and this was it.
Yeah. What, so you have, obviously we talked about your camps and then the training. So what does that look like for you now to do these trainings?
Yeah. So I started that back in April in Bozeman, and it was a really cool deal because when I announced that I was going to do it, I got a huge response, which was fun, and hit the ground running in the spring, and throughout the summer was working. So spring I did 4 hours a night for 5 nights a week, like after schools with middle school and high schoolers. And then in the summer, 5 days a week from 8 to 3. So
That's
I was
a lot.
working,
Yeah.
a lot of hours in the gym, 5 days a week all summer throughout the fall. And then school started and basketball started, and it's slowed down a bit since the high school basketball season is going, but I'm still working with middle schoolers, doing group training, one-on-one, staying busy. And then next year, I think it's going to be even bigger now that I've made connections and I have returning clients, getting the hang of it. But it's fun. I do love it. It's a lot of fun. I'm meeting a lot of people. The kids are great. They work so hard because I wanted to be around basketball still in some way without coaching.
Yeah.
And I think this is a great way to do it.
And you get to be your own boss with that.
Exactly. Well, I have a boss.
Haley.
Yeah.
Let's not forget.
Right. Yeah.
So coaching, not your thing? Like the full-blown head coach, assistant coach, player coach?
I have thought about it. I've been asked to come back and do it like in like the NBA or like the G League and be involved in some capacity. I don't think I'm there yet. Maybe down the road. But as far as like high school, like I have too many friends who have been a part of it. And I say this as a parent myself, parents are the worst.
Yes.
And I just don't think I can do it.
Yeah.
I've heard too many horror stories.
It would make you hate it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's just not what I want to do. I don't want to have to answer to anybody. I don't want to have to explain myself to anybody.
Right.
Like, you don't like it, then go train somewhere
Yes.
else.
Right.
You don't have to be a part of this.
Exactly. I don't want to have to deal with that. And
That's
it's been
smart.
good.
For you for knowing that.
Because I've seen it. I've been a part of sports. I've seen what happens, and you don't perform, you get fired. I already dealt with that whole, like, you don't perform in my job, you lose your job. Like, nobody's taking my job away from me right now.
Yeah. Right.
Which is
yes.
nice.
It's what you want it to be. Yeah.
I maybe one day, but I'm just not there right now.
I've watched my niece, who is now 5th grade. She's playing the sport. And my greatest fear was always, like, if she's really good, am I going to be an awful aunt? Like, constantly pushing, because my husband's seen me watch the game and he's like, you're impossible to be around just even watching the game. And I'm like,
she would be the parent you wouldn't like.
She's the one.
Yeah.
I've heard about people like you.
Yeah. I'd not be kind. And then you'd be like, you're just the aunt. Get out of my face.
Yes.
So when she was playing, she enjoyed the game, but there was not this focus of being the best and kind of all these elements. I'm like, oh, this might be funner to watch then, because then I'm not as committed to making sure that
you were wrong, weren't you?
Yeah. So I'm good with my niece, but when I watch like my old team play, I'll constantly be like, Amber, what are you doing? And she won like the coach of the year.
I love Amber. I know Amber.
Amber
Amber's
Erickson.
great. Yeah, Amber's
she's
great.
fantastic. And then there's moments I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, you won coach of the year. You probably are smarter than what I am.
Amber knows her stuff.
So I'm like,
Amber knows her
shut
stuff.
up
against her.
You don't know what you're talking about, Ingham. So it is fun to try and not be part of that, because coaching is a whole different level.
Well, unless you go undefeated somebody, even when you go into
Oh,
somebody's going to have something to say.
Yeah, everyone's got opinions.
Yeah, exactly. They're
Well,
like, you know what?
Hey,
Everybody's
try
got
to
one,
take
and
my
they
job.
They usually stink.
Yep, exactly. Well, good for you for knowing to avoid
Very
that.
self-aware.
Yeah.
So, what are the biggest differences from playing at the different levels?
Yeah, I mean,
Because it's a completely different world
is.
each time you enter the new level.
Well, going from like high school to college was every game I played in high school, I was either the tallest or maybe there was one person taller than me. Maybe. More often than not, no. I was the tallest and I was going to be the most athletic. There wasn't a game I played in high school where I wasn't, right? And then going to college, I just became just another guy.
One of everybody like
exactly.
you.
Like I got there and I'm like middle of the pack in height. Like I've got teammates who are faster, can jump high. Like it's just the way it goes. And so you rely on skill way more. I could get away with a lot here just because I was taller and I could jump higher. And then you get there and that doesn't fly as much. And so I had to work super hard to kind of carve out what it was that I did well.
Did the game inherently change from each level?
The speed I would say the speed of it is the biggest thing, is because a shot that I could normally be able to get off without getting blocked in high school, like had no chance. In college.
Okay.
People are faster. Everything just goes quicker.
Yeah.
And it's a really big adjustment at first. And then eventually you get used to it. It slows down. And then you go through the entire thing again when you get to the NBA. Like the average height in the NBA is 6'7", which is as tall as I am.
Yeah.
That's the average height.
Meaning there's a lot that are taller.
But at some point, Josh, you got to go, I went in the first round.
Yeah.
Like you got to
I
gotta walk in with a little bit of swagger.
I know how to do it, but like I will say that it's unbelievable when people don't they see a guy who maybe doesn't get a lot of playing time or a guy who wasn't drafted or whatever it is, and they're like, oh, he's not very good. That is not the truth.
No.
It's great. Like the talent level it's like the difference between the 50th best player in the league and the 350th best player in the league is not nearly as much as you would think it is. Like it's situation, it's opportunity, things like that. But like everybody is just great. Like the worst player in the NBA is probably better than the best player in college. Like that's just how it is.
Which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, that's just how it is. Like
Yeah.
the best player in college is probably not as good as one of the worst quote unquote worst players in the NBA. That's just how it is.
Well, you think about too in my brain, like comparing to running, right? You watch like Olympic track events, the difference between a gold medal and last, like 0.2 seconds,
Barely
if that,
anything.
it's just like.
But that's everything at that level. That's
right.
And it's the same. Like I tell kids when I work with them, it's like when you get really good, 1/10 of a second is the difference between getting an open shot and getting your shot blocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's a hard concept to grasp, but everything has to be sped up.
Yeah.
Everything. And then just the environment is different. Obviously playing at CMR in front of, 1,500 max, maybe 1,000, 1,500 people on like the big nights too. In college, it was in front of 6,000 or 7,000 to in
and
the
televised.
NBA. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then in the NBA, it's 20,000 in the arena and then however many millions watching around the world.
How do you remember the first time you walked on the court? Like you got on the court for a game with the Thunder and like in that, did you just have to block it?
Super overwhelming.
Yeah.
Pretty overwhelming. You kind of have to block it. You have to try to just tune everything out, which is hard because it's so loud. I remember the first game I started where it was just like, this is a lot.
Yeah. It's like you can probably either like choose to block it or choose to draw energy from it, suppose.
Everybody's different. Some people are the ones that tune everything out and some people feed off the energy.
Yeah.
I was more of like tune it out and just try to focus just only on what I was doing.
Yeah.
But everybody's different. Some people feed off the booze and the noise and all that. And I was more of a like I wish I could turn my ears off.
Yeah.
And just play. Yeah.
Does that make it harder? Like, do you learn your teammates in a whole new way? Because communicating with your teammates on a court here, I imagine, is a lot, I don't know if easier is the right word, but just different than when you got a massive crowd cheering and you can't actually hear the player.
And going back to communication.
Yes.
Super important in basketball. And
Not in marriage, just in basketball.
In practices, we would get screamed at if we weren't, even when in an empty gym, we would get screamed at if we weren't talking loud enough. Because they were like, there's going to be 20,000 people screaming. If you don't let your teammate hear you, then that's a problem.
Right.
So like
that
just
could
loud,
be a missed shot,
loud,
a missed
and
opportunity.
learning like the important like keywords. Like everything is about getting the information out as quickly and efficiently as possible, because I don't have time to yell an entire sentence at you.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, hey, there's a screen coming, look out. By that time, you've just been flattened by somebody. So you come up with like keywords and phrases to try to share to give people heads up. And you learn, you get much, much better at it.
Sure.
Over time, but it's hard. By the end of it, it's hard to keep talking. You need to rest your voice.
That sounds almost more exhausting than anything.
It's a lot. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
My playing at the professional level, today, I'm going to use today in air quotes because the entire listening audience can see what I'm doing here in the studio. So at the time you entered the NBA, we talked about the 80s, 90s NBA game. It's a vastly different game than it is today.
Of course, yeah.
Is it the same style of game that you played all through high school and college?
No, not at all.
Okay.
It's changed. It changed from the time I got drafted to the time I retired. It changed a bunch.
Wow.
So
that would be difficult because you inherently, your love for the game comes from the strategy of the game. And when that changes.
Right. Well, when I played in high school and even in college, like the 3-point shot, people took threes, but about 30%, as many as they do now. The value on certain shots has changed completely. Like I think I shot about 5 threes my entire high school career. And so I saw something today actually that was saying about the scoring in the NBA is different. There's more value placed on 3-point shot, more fouls, all those things. This year, there are 41 players in the NBA averaging more than 20 points a game.
That's insane.
In 2012, there were 12 players averaging more than 20 points a game.
Yeah.
So it's faster. There's more scoring. Players are just getting better too. And I think people say that it's soft, like no defense anymore. That's why players are just way, way better.
Well, and I think the defense has to look different because in the 90s, you were so used to seeing the game played under the basket, where now you're so used to seeing it out on the perimeter, which pulls everyone out. So you don't have that rough and tumbleness on the defense side.
I loved the physicality. I'm saying this as someone who loved the physicality of the 80s and the 90s. It was not always basketball. People loved the bad boys, but let's come on.
Yeah, it's more like football.
That was not. You want your favorite player to be able to keep playing,
right?
Yeah.
We can't.
You can't do that.
Let them play like that.
Yeah.
No, the stuff that
it's not fun to play in games like that. Like I know it's fun to watch, but that is not fun to be a part of.
Not last long when you're taking hits like that under the basket.
Nobody enjoys that. And then the NBA is like, "Hey, we're spending $30 million on this guy this year. I would rather not have him
injured
most of the season."
Yeah.
The fans want to see the players play. Like that's the whole thing. Fans want the players to play. So you can't let teams just beat up on each other night in and night out, or the players are just not going to be playing
80+ games.
And the other thing in the 90s, very few fouls were called for stuff like that. Like you had to show blood in order to get some of the fouls.
You could break someone's nose with a punch and get suspended a game or two.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
Get a stern talking to after a benches clearing brawl.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, knock it off.
Yeah.
That wasn't good sportsmanship.
But then, what changed everything was the Pistons and the Pacers, the Malice in the Palace, when the players ran up into the stands and started fighting fans. That changed everything.
Yeah, we can't be doing that
No,
anymore.
they're like,
that's not
this
right.
is our bad. We let this we let them do too much fighting for too long, and now
they
we're
just
suffering
ready to fight
the
everybody.
consequences.
Oh my gosh.
Let's reflect on what's gotten us to this point
Exactly.
and adjust that moving forward.
Can you imagine being a fan and having an NBA players swinging at you?
Well, yeah. Because here's the deal. a lot of people see NBA games and players as zoo animals.
Yeah.
And maybe every once in a while, you got to be reminded.
Yeah.
Hey, we're
that
humans.
The tiger bites back sometimes if you throw things at it.
That's fair.
And I see that happen off the court sometimes where fans think that they can speak to players however they want. But Charles Barkley threw somebody through a window one time.
Yeah.
And he said his only regret was that it wasn't on the second floor.
Yeah.
But
people, you're right though. People need to like understand that you can't just say whatever.
But I think
Still people.
there's a national advertising campaign for something where like they've said on social media that my grandma can throw a better punch than this guy, or I could take that punch, or and then they show up and they said, did you say this on social media? And he's like, yeah, and then like
okay, do it.
Okay, here we go, here's the punch that's coming, and they're like, not a big. I'm like, no, if there's more consequences for the crap you put out there, the better off we'll be.
I've seen that where someone tweets like an NFL kicker misses a kick.
Yeah.
And people tweet out like, I could have made that kick. And they go find him and like, okay.
Here you go.
Here's your chance.
Here's the exact kick. Do it. And most of them, the ball barely leaves the ground. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
By the way, you don't have the pressure, the crowd, the situation.
Your job
this is
isn't
just
on the
that,
line.
right?
Yeah. There's a reason you're not getting paid.
That should happen more with the stuff people say and post.
If there's ever a job where you can just go around and call people out on their crap that they put on social media, I'm going to lead that effort.
Yeah,
you can just make that your
I could. I could start my own company and be like, you're a moron. Here's how we're going to explain to you are.
Yeah. Exactly.
The amount of, this is not the same at all, but just in news, the amount of ridiculous comments that people make.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody could do your job better than you.
100%. Or like the focus is on like, oh, your hair was out of, like the amount of messages for some, apparently I just looked real terrible for this 2-month stretch. The amount of random Facebook messages I got about my hair. Like,
so weird.
I understand that it's a visual component that's part of the job, but
Close
like
your
of
eyes.
all the things that you're like taking effort in your life to do is to
a lot of bored
comment about that. It's just, oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely.
What people feel they can say.
Yep.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Silly.
Now, that being said, all of that to say, you come back to Great Falls now. You've become, you're Great Falls celebrity, the pride of Great Falls.
Not just Great Falls. You're a world
Montana.
celebrity.
Right.
Oh, well,
yes.
I mean,
okay.
Right.
Let's just
depends who you ask, I guess. My mom, absolutely.
Oh,
we'll give
100%.
Haley a call.
Your
and
wife,
she'll
maybe
she'll
not.
say he's not a celebrity.
He's not that big of a deal.
Plays
just a
rec
pain.
league. I don't know. Yeah. What? But with that being part of kind of your role in life, who you are now, what does that mean to you? What is that like for you to come home and feel these, like, hopefully you feel it, this pride from the community that we get to call
You're
you
one of
ours.
our own.
Yeah.
I mean, it means a lot.
Yeah.
Because I do remember just being just another kid growing up in Great Falls, and Great Falls will always be home. I'm still proud of it. I still love coming back here. I love being able to bring my son here and, take him over to CMR and put him on the basketball court and do those things and still see like Great Falls. I mean, it changes in some ways, but it's still the Great Falls that I remember. I mean, I love it. And it's cool to see that people, are happy for me and are proud of me and proud of the things that I've done, because I always told myself if I was ever lucky enough to make it to the level that I wanted to, I was like, then I have a responsibility to do good with it. I think everybody who has a platform to do something should. I think that just kind of comes with the territory, and being able to give back to a town that did so much for me and made me so happy. Like that's what it's all about for me. I feel like it's a responsibility of mine to find ways to give back and to help people.
How awkward is it for you, like, to have someone who wasn't a part of the work that you put in here, just a resident of the community, come up and go, I'm so proud of you. Like they had some stake in getting you to where you were. I mean, to me, that seems like a weird comment to say to someone, because the work is really on you. You did the work, you put it in. Even though there was community support, it's not like they were there at 5 a.m. rebounding with you, even though they should have been.
No, I get that. But I mean, it means something to know that these people, because I hear people come up and say, oh, I watched you when you were at CMR. We watched your games when you were at Stanford. We watched you when you played in the, like, That means it's like you took time out of your day to support someone who I may have never met them before, to support someone. And I think that's one of the special things about, Great Falls and Montana as a whole, honestly, is that like anybody who does anything of significance that's from Montana, like we claim them. Like, they're from Montana.
Uh-huh. That's right.
And that's our guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's super cool.
They were only here for a month, but they're ours now.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I think that's a super unique thing. Like I was mentioning earlier, that my mom's from the Highline.
Yeah.
And like the Highline would have
as a whole different world.
Yes, it is.
Yes. There were Highline watch parties for my games at Stanford. And I would see pictures of them, of just like 20 to 30, just like old farmers huddled in a bar in front of a TV, just watching me play I've never met. Yeah. But just because of where I'm from, they're proud of me, which is cool. Yeah. I don't think you get that just anywhere.
Yeah. No.
Right. If you're from LA and like, just somebody else.
Just another guy.
Right.
And folks, this is something you just will not fully comprehend unless you live in this state. The difference of living on the Highline in the state of Montana versus any other portion of the state of Montana.
The Highline is like southern Canada
in
some ways.
The hardiness of the folks up there is different. They're honestly, the level of commitment the Highline has to basketball.
It's crazy. They are
if they're fortunate enough to have a football team, the level of commitment they have for those two sports is insane.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, I did a basketball camp in Malta this summer. There's on short notice, like 60 kids.
Yeah.
Just like the whole community.
They were already there ready to play.
Like they live, breathe, eat, sleep basketball.
Yeah, there's
Highline.
It's a different kind of religion up there.
It is.
One of my favorite movies on planet Earth is a PBS documentary called Class C.
Okay.
Have you ever seen it?
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
I didn't know about it, and then I was talking with a friend of mine, James Parker Shield, and he's like, "Have you seen this new PBS movie?" This was years ago. I'm like, "I've never even heard of it." He's like, "You gotta get it. You have got to get this movie." So like, I went online, found it, bought it for like $35, and like, worth every penny. Got it home, put it in the DVD player. You can tell how old this thing is. And I watched it, and at the end, I'm just bawling, and my husband's like, "Why are you crying?" And I'm like, "Shut up." And he goes, "I don't get this at all." And I'm like, you wouldn't.
Can't unless you've been a part of it.
Yeah. It's just a whole different world.
The whole community behind a team. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you need some light watching,
it's that northern sea, especially.
Yeah, that division's pretty well.
There's some good players that have come
Eastern.
out of.
Yeah.
Eastern Sea's pretty good too.
Anyway, it is.
It's true. I guess being in Havre, I was like the northern sea.
Yeah.
I had a friend play for KG at the time.
KG, yeah.
Kremlin Guilford.
Yeah. My cousins went to, it doesn't exist anymore, but Blue Sky.
Oh, yeah.
Up there, yeah.
Yeah. So many good things.
Yeah.
So many good things.
When you are back in Great Falls now, adult, have lived many other places, come back. What are the things that you to do, or what have you shown like Haley to do, or have you had time to do anything outside of family time?
Yeah. I mean, every time I come home, I try to go fishing, do fishing with either my buddy or with my dad.
Are you fly fishing?
I'm a bait fisherman. I'm a bait fisherman. I know.
I knew there was bigger connections here.
I like to just turn my mind off when I'm fishing. I've been fly fishing, but I grew up
a lot of work.
It is.
You got to pay a lot of attention.
Exactly.
I don't want to fall down and drown.
But do that. The big things for me are there's certain places I need to go eat.
Okay.
That only a Great Falls native can love.
Okay.
Taco Treat. Howard's.
Okay.
Best Walk.
Oh yeah.
And the big one for me, my favorite is Mongolian.
Yeah.
By Target. That's my spot.
I've never been there. I don't know. I know.
I don't know. So good.
I have to tell you, we just went there last week, and this is one of the most quintessential Great Falls experiences you can have. The owner's child was there.
Yes.
And hanging out with us, and they put these tables together. We had a bigger group, about 8 of us, I think. Well, the owner's son brought us each a toy, like as a gift to play with while we were there. They were, trucks, and I got a pair of sunglasses that didn't have the lenses in them. And like everybody got this toy from him. And then he would walk around and he'd go, we will. And then our
What an
table would
insane
respond,
experience.
go, rock you. And then he picked up and this is again, will offend people, I'm sure, but he picked up his truck and used it as a gun. And so then he'd shoot each one of us and we'd be like, oh, and we'd fall down. And we had such a blast playing with this kid that when we left, he each gave us a fist bump and a shot with his truck.
Oh, wow.
And then as we all left the building, he got us out, and then he put all his toys down and he stood out on the sidewalk and he screamed. He's like, thanks for coming. Have a good night.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
That's great.
I'm like, that is the best
That's
experience I've
That's the
ever had. The
customer
food was
service.
fantastic, but
That's
and the
great.
owner's like, no, get away from there. And I'm like, no, he's fine. We're having a blast.
So you got to
That's
show.
Trying to
funny.
giving us
Show with
some
your food,
gumballs. He'd keep going to get gumballs from
Yeah.
buying gumballs from the machine to give them
That's
to us.
hilarious.
I'm like,
Uh-huh.
just a small little detour
Right.
there. So Mongolian barbecue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my spot. But yeah, the food is one of the things that I'm like, I gotta do
Yeah.
while I'm in town. Go over to CMR, of course.
Yeah.
Still have some buddies that live here. See them.
You still in
Yeah.
touch with your high school coach?
I am. Yeah.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I talked to him I texted him a few days ago.
Nice.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. He was a big part of my life and big influence in my life, and so still stay in touch. They're going to come up and play in Bozeman soon, and I'm going to be
Nice.
at their games. And yeah,
That's
That'll be
great.
fun.
still a rustler through and through.
Yeah.
It's
Love
hard to
it.
shed those
No, you
things.
can't.
Mhm. Yeah.
Bleed green and gold.
There you go.
How about some of the new spots? Have you ventured into all the new spots that we've got in Great Falls?
Downtown and all that.
So I've been to Fifth and Wine.
Mhm.
Ooh,
My wife loves Fifth and Wine.
Yeah.
oh, she's got good
As
taste.
do we. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is good. I see the Ribbon Chop House open
Oh,
up here.
yeah.
I
They did,
have
yeah.
not been there yet.
Mhm.
Marketplace is constantly changing. and
That's
it's
true.
hard to keep up with.
Yep. Yeah.
The Cattleman's is there. I'm more
Right.
partial to the old Cattleman's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
When it
That's
was way
fair.
out of town.
That's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
There's-
sometimes
Jakers,
just
of course.
changing
Yeah.
the location. Oh, and let me share, folks, this may be helpful. We did our anniversary of Mighty Mo episode.
Hmm.
Went down to Mighty Mo to get a monster cookie.
It's a
stout. It's
It's amazing.
fantastic.
Mighty Mo is nice. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mighty Mo was out. While I was there, I complained enough to the server that they found out that they still had it on tap at Jakers.
The cookie
They
or
called
monster cookie
around
one.
for you.
Like, I'm a bit of a princess, so I threw a small fit. Like last weekend, I went in there just for that entire purpose, was to have that beer.
Yeah.
And I just sat there devastated. And the guy's like, we have other beers. I'm like, it's the only reason I came in here.
Not the same.
And he goes, I'm really sorry. And I'm
I
like,
don't know how to respond.
Right.
To this.
Yeah.
he goes, I can't have
Yeah.
Casey just make another batch for
That's
you. I'm like,
hilarious.
I'm pretty sure you could try. Like,
Why couldn't you though?
I'll wait. I'll sit here and wait.
so
Couldn't
I
you?
was there last night for a meeting, and he's like, I did learn that Jaker still has some
There you go.
Mm.
Cookie Monster on.
But they're out
yeah.
at well, we know it was going to be seasonal, which
Yeah.
is sad.
So
It's
there we go.
good. It's like a peanut
Hurry.
butter chocolate stout, and
I'm
it
gonna have to
smells
try that.
amazing.
Yeah.
It's at
so good.
Jaker's. There
So I
you
was
go.
at Jakers yesterday and they mentioned their peanut butter stout
Oh.
and I did not get it.
Oh,
Oh,
you missed.
Josh, you missed
Josh,
out.
you
Well, I
missed
went
out.
with Jeremiah Johnson.
Oh, I
No,
know that.
good.
I
Yep.
know that gentleman.
Yes.
Yep.
That's a good
and
choice, too.
Damn Fog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both good choices.
Yeah.
In
Absolutely.
my opinion. But yeah, I'm going to have to do that next time.
Yeah. There's
Well,
a lot of
Come to Great Falls for the beer.
exactly.
I'm just gonna say chances aren't good since I know where it's at. I am a connoisseur of beer and I can drink a lot of it, so
Mhm.
I know where I'm headed after work.
Get there
Yeah,
soon,
that sounded
folks.
good. Good
Be
stuff.
quick. Did since you were in Great Falls for 5th grade, did you do the CM Russell essay contest?
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
Do you remember that?
gosh. I'm sure I did. I'm sure I did.
Is it 4th grade or 5th grade?
I don't
Somewhere
I
in
don't
there.
know.
I guarantee
Anyway.
I did.
Yeah.
Committed to the 5th.
Yeah.
Of course. And then all the different weird Montana themed things.
Contests.
I
Bumper
remember
sticker contests and
that in 8th grade sex ed class,
Oh boy.
the first thing the teacher did was play "What Was I Thinking" by Dierks Bentley,
oh,
That's
a country
amazing.
song to
That's a-
explain
yeah,
making
that's-
stupid decisions.
Oh my
it's a good way to
for-
start.
That's
Which
amazing.
I have always thought it gets more hilarious to
Yeah.
me every year.
Yep.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what was that?
But you remembered
But
that.
I remember
Yeah.
it exactly.
And when you're tempted to make a bad choice, you just remember
Yeah,
that
still
song.
made bad choices.
Yeah.
But
I think you're supposed
That's-
to.
yeah,
That's part of
That's
growing
part of
up.
growing
Exactly.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. I love that.
Yeah. Well, we've had a blast.
Yeah.
same. This
thanks,
was great.
Josh.
Thank you. This was awesome.
Are we your
Yeah.
first podcast that you've been a guest on?
No, I've
Oh.
done a couple. I'm actually a weekly member of a sports podcast.
Hey.
Oh.
Well, okay. Tell people what that is so they can get more
Well,
of
it's
you.
via The Athletic,
Okay.
which is a sports-based part of the New York Times.
Okay.
So just like a weekly, every Monday.
You're
It's called,
recording.
it's called Basket Buds.
Nice.
And we
Oh.
just talk basketball.
Cool.
Yeah.
Does that? Do you ever get tired of it? Do you ever be like, oh, I gotta talk about basketball again?
You know, every time I like go into it, I'm like, I don't know if I have much to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then the whole point of the podcast, we argue a ton.
Oh, that's the best part.
Yeah.
And one of the guys on it says one thing, and then just all of a sudden find myself, my voice starts rising just a little bit.
You
I
just
get a little
wanna
bit
grab
fired
'em.
up,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
I get into it.
Yeah.
I, have
I
a
think
blast.
that's what's
That's
nice
great.
about the podcast format is you're not necessarily going in prepared.
That
No,
to some
no,
we don't.
extent.
Yeah.
more often than not, we have like 5 or 6 topics, and
Right.
we are like pretty lucky if we hit 3
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
time because we
Mhm.
tangents,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
stories,
That's what makes for good
useless
listening.
information. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's how it should be. Just fun.
After 160-ish episodes of this
Yep.
podcast, people are like, there's so much I know about Rebecca
Right.
that I just
I know.
don't need to.
The world hears so
Didn't
much.
have, just
yeah.
didn't have to.
Yeah, she's a little focused on herself. But that's what makes good
Well, and
television.
you're on lots
folks.
of
That's
lists
true.
now. Like we had the police on, and
Oh,
you're
yeah.
on their you're on their list.
You want to hear
now.
some
I would
entertaining?
love to.
Me and Otto.
Captain Otto? Yeah.
There we go. I never remember what his title
Captain
is.
Otto.
Yeah,
Lieutenant.
most of
Lieutenant.
the time
Lieutenant.
he was like, what is wrong with you? Like, just literally, he's like, that's it, you're going back on the list. I'm
She
like,
had lots of questions about like if something was a crime or not.
Yep.
That seems like suspicious.
Right.
Exactly.
Not that hypothetically. Let's say
Yeah.
I have a friend.
so this
Uh-huh.
is the deal.
True.
Yep.
Is that illegal? And he's like, let's just not do that. And I'm like, okay.
Let's move
no,
on to
but it's
another
just kind of a
topic.
dick move.
It's not morally something you should be engaging
You
in.
might not go to jail, but we're not going to
you
love
want to
that.
be the
Yeah.
person that does that in your life. Yeah. So
People
That's
learn a
funny.
lot. Yeah. Where else can people find you? Keep up with you? All of
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I'm on Instagram and Facebook.
Mhm.
On there, I mean, I'm not a huge
poster.
poster.
Yeah.
I'm more of a lurker.
I think that
But-
you should record yourself singing the Paraskips in middle school fight song.
Would that be
Yes.
and
quality
record that.
content?
It absolutely. would
Coming
be.
from
It'll
our
make or
content
break my
director.
profile.
Yeah. It'll skyrocket
Followers
you.
just collapse
Mhm.
after I post this. My profile starts
Yeah.
getting reported.
The headline of the paper will say Huestis breaks the
Yeah.
internet.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, they say you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain, right? And this might be my
Oh.
villain origin story is the
Could
singing
be.
of the Paraskips and fight song.
If that's your villain, I can be on board with you being a villain
Yeah.
if that's what
Some
makes you
people
a villain.
love the villains.
It's true.
Yeah. I've watched a few TV shows
yeah.
lately where it just wouldn't have been good without the
Yeah,
villain. and
That's true.
Exactly.
some drama
and when
in your
you
life.
stand in your living room and scream at the TV that you hate the character that's being played, you know it's being done well.
You've done
Wow.
really well.
Mhm.
Yep.
Like
What-
even if I saw
Is that for Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones,
That's what she's
Joffrey. Yeah.
Oh, you guys can talk. She
Yeah.
is currently going through Game of Thrones.
I'm going to say this because there's a great TV show about Montana called Big Sky that Reba McEntire
I need to
starred
watch
in.
that. Yeah.
I don't know if I'd suggest that season where Reba's in it because she played such a psychotic
So you start
villain.
hating Reba.
And you're like, this is a little
can't
too
separate.
well. Like this is now I'm concerned if I meet Reba in real life, I'll be like, you're a little too much like your character,
well, I've heard
aren't
that,
you?
like the guy that plays Joffrey on Game of Thrones, like people will come up to him and tell him they hate him.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's how I know I did a really good job.
That's true. That should be a compliment, I
I'm
suppose.
not that guy, but thanks.
I'm
a
different human
fantastic
being.
actor. But there was a lot of hatred for that.
I could see that.
That young child. And you never want to hate a child, but
we did.
We did.
This is a
and we did it with
Sure did.
Oh, I've not watched
Well, now
Game
you
of
know what
Thrones.
you can do.
Yeah.
With your
Hate a
free
child.
time.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
Yeah.
You won't be the only child you hate on that show.
No, there's a lot of hatred that goes around. You'll be like, what is going on?
You will hate more people than you like.
I think
Okay.
And whoever you think is the main character is
They're
Changes.
not. Yeah.
Sounds quite the ride.
Yeah, all the rules you think that exist in television, like you can't kill off main characters.
There's nobody untouchable.
No rules.
Well, that makes it more exciting.
Anything happens.
Stressful
Yeah.
though. Trust me.
So join us when
Prepare
we start
yourself.
discussing
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
You guys can do
after
like a
dark.
rewatch of Game of Thrones podcast then. Yeah.
So good.
Enjoy your time in Great Falls.
Thank you. I will.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enjoy everything about this winter because it's, you don't need a coat right now, which is absolutely
Great.
amazing.
Yeah.
Pray for snow in the mountains
It's
so that
coming,
we
though.
can
No,
have
I live in the mountains. Don't do that.
well,
Here.
we
You live in
need
Bozeman.
them.
We want it here.
We need
Here.
them
Okay.
here.
Yeah, you need it here. That's fair.
Showdown.
That's fair. I
Yeah.
see my wife told
Although-
me today there's some in the forecast.
There is.
Montana's going to get hit in the next 10 days.
I transferred from the University of Wyoming to Montana State University.
Mhm. Good for you.
And the year I made the decision, I went to do a campus visit in Bozeman, and it was so full of snow. Like everywhere you went, the snowbanks from clearing the road were above all the buildings. So all you could
Oh
see
my
was just all of
gosh.
this
So
snow.
you really had no
And
idea
that's what
it
you
looked
chose.
like.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this is a great first impression. So
Uh-huh.
I've been there. And then when I met my current spouse, we were living in Bozeman, and again, snow all the time.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I can't do this anymore. You want to head to Billings? Or he says, do you want to head east until we find Brown? And I'm like, if you need the break, let's head that direction. So we headed to Billings so that he could see Brown because it's a different ecosystem.
It is. It changes quick.
Very different
Yeah.
across
It
the
does.
state. Yeah.
So we want some of your snow if you just want to haul it up here.
I would be more than happy to
Yeah,
send it this
just
way.
shovel it into the back of the
Yeah.
pickup,
'Cause
bring it up.
Bozeman gets hit.
Yeah, a
Mhm.
lot.
Little
Mhm.
valley in there. Yeah.
And folks, until we see your bright, smiling, happy, beautiful, healthy face in our fine, fine city, we hope you're creating amazing memories with your friends and family wherever you might be. We'll see you soon.
We're No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town. Damn, that felt good.